Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be doing another Star Trek retrospective. If you're new to my channel, I've been doing Star Trek retrospective series of videos on Fridays, which have to do with looking back at some of my favorite and most influential Star Trek series in the lead up to the final Star Trek trilogy that is currently in publishing, that is ending at the end of November. And so I've talked about the Destiny trilogy, the Fall 5-book series, and the Star Trek Prey trilogy. And so today I'm going to delve into a specific series. This isn't a trilogy or an official series per se, but this is an arc of books. And if you've read this series or heard about this series, you probably know why I'm particularly choosing this as an arc. And that is the Full Circle arc by Kirsten Beyer. I'm going to be referring to 4 books. The book novel Full Circle, I'm going to be talking about Unworthy, I'm going to be talking about Children of the Storm, and I'm going to be talking about The Eternal Tide. There are going to be minor situational spoilers about the state of the Star Trek universe as of these books. However, I'm not going to go into specific spoilers about what happens in these books. I'm just talking about generally what's happening in the universe and the general setup of these books. The setup of book 1 is generally known if you've read the other Star Trek books, and so it's not really, the setup for it isn't a spoiler, but I will try to be careful not to spoil anyone at all in this series. But I highly recommend you read the series. That's the end takeaway of this is read this book series because it's fantastic. Totally worth it. So, to begin with, I'm going to talk about the setup for the series. I'm going to talk about what it did and how it changed the storytelling of the Star Trek universe. In 2003 and 2004, Christy Golden was handed the reins of Star Trek books for Voyager. She had the Homecoming duology and the Spirit Walk duology. Homecoming was meant to take place immediately after the events of the big Endgame, the Voyager episode Endgame, which ended the Voyager series and brought Voyager back home after 7 years. And so they weren't telling the story anywhere else. They were not expanding at all. So Christy Golden said immediately what happened afterwards. And then that was the Homecoming duology with Homecoming in the Farthest Shore. Then she wrote the Spirit Walk duology, which kind of shows Voyager going on some fun adventures throughout the Alpha Quadrant. And after that, Christy Golden was hired to go do other books for other series, including Star Wars. And so she left, never to return. However, no one else really stepped in around this time. They did the String Theory trilogy, which I have over my shoulder, which was really well done, but it wasn't during this era, so they hadn't told a story since her Spirit Walk duology. So there was nothing really happening in Star Trek Voyager-wise in this continuity that was happening. And then this little trilogy, itty-bitty trilogy called Destiny showed up. And Destiny, as I've mentioned in my retrospective for it, completely changed the state of the Star Trek universe. Destiny was all about talking about how everything blows up. 63 billion people die. Big events are happening with the Borg and with the Kaliar and with the Federation, and all these things are happening. And if you read that trilogy, you notice that certain characters from Voyager show up intermittently, and they don't really explain why. And that's because they were waiting for for Kirsten Beyer to write this. And also, in a previous Star Trek novel, they had killed off a major character from the Voyager series. I won't spoil who that was, but you'll figure it out very early on when you read the books. And so they needed to grapple with all this stuff that's happening, and they needed to play catch-up. And so Kirsten Beyer was given the opportunity to write the book Full Circle, which, full disclosure, is one of the longest Star Trek books I've ever read, And I think, as far as I understand, is one of the longest Star Trek books ever. It's well over 500 pages in mass market paperback. Not many books in Star Trek get even over 450, let alone to 500. So that's a rare thing. Full Circle takes place before, concurrently, and after Destiny, and kind of catches them up and then starts to set them up afterwards. And basically, the Full Circle series asks, what is Voyager's purpose in the universe? Voyager was in the Alpha Quadrant for 7 years. What are they going to do after they leave the Alpha Quadrant? After they've come back to... They've been in the Delta Quadrant. Did I say Alpha Quadrant? They've been in the Delta Quadrant for 7 years. They just came back and they're in the Alpha Quadrant. And there was a sense, both among fans and among the publishing team, and even among the characters, that they were kind of meandering with no purpose, and that there was just nothing exciting, and they realized they would just become another ship in the quadrant if they stayed in the Alpha Quadrant. So they devised a plan to get Voyager out of the Alpha Quadrant and to send them on this mission of exploration that Voyager would be uniquely tasked for and would be uniquely crewed for because of their past experiences. I will not go further than that because I don't want to spoil anything. But because of that, they're given a full fleet called the Full Circle Fleet to go out with them, and they're given a new admiral who's in charge of that Full Circle Fleet. And I just have to say, the novel Full Circle is without a doubt my favorite Voyager novel, as a singular novel I've ever read. It absolutely just captures everything I want a Star Trek Voyager novel to feel. They have the first portion of the book is more of a fun adventure, like a TV show episode in the Alpha Quadrant. And then the middle portion of the book just has this gut punch of destiny happen, and you just feel for the characters. And then the last third provides hope. And then you get into the books that start telling their own adventures, like Unworthy and Children of the Storm. And I have to be more vague about these books because really the setup for them would spoil the Full Circle. But these are much more continuing the adventures in their new explorations. And they're very fun novels. And they feel big because it's not just about Voyager, it's about the whole Full Circle fleet that Voyager is the center of and the command ship of. So that's why these books are great. And The Eternal Tide, which is the fourth book and I would say the final book in the arc, really serves almost as like a season finale. If Full Circle is the season premiere of Voyager of this new era, then The Eternal Tide is the season finale. Kirsten ties all the plot lines together, finishes up just about everything that she set out to do, and is able to give you a sense of completion that you don't often get in the Voyager books because they always were undercut by what the show was doing or what the other books were doing. This was a time when Kirsten Beyer, this Voyager writer, was able to put Voyager in the hands of a Voyager fan. And so this book is absolutely brilliant. It blew my mind in so many ways. It's a very unique type of Star Trek book. And so I highly recommend this one as well. And so this series is just bookended. Amazing book at the beginning, an amazing book at the end, and the books in the middle are also very good. And so this is the one Voyager series that I feel like can hold its own compared to the books of all the other, of the Next Generation, of DS9, of Titan, because it is the one aspect that feels like it completes everything, it starts everything, it's huge, it's big, and it's fun to read. There's a lot of fun in this series, as well as a lot of serious moments. I personally feel that after she finished this series, Kirsten just got a little bit too serious in the writing, and it just there was an element of magic gone in the books. And also I felt like she didn't expand the storyline, so this storyline from Full Circle all the way to Lose the Earth, which is like 10 books, only really goes about a year in the timeline, whereas 10 books in Next Generation is going to go way more than a year because they're constantly moving quickly throughout. And so that was one not good element of Kirsten's writing was Kirsten was always behind and she never caught up. Everyone says, "Oh yeah, Voyager was playing catch up." They weren't really playing catch up. They weren't really trying because they just were moving so glacially slow. And that's one of the reasons why Voyager has not really been included in the Coda trilogy, because they are so far behind in the timeline, and it's just frustrating to me that happens, because it should be the three tentpole series of Star Trek literature should be the Next Generation crew, the DS9 crew, and the Voyager crew. But the DS9 crew and Voyager crew were always so far behind that instead it became the Next Generation crew, the Titan crew with Next Generation characters, and the Aventine crew, which was mostly new with some DS9 connections. But as a whole, Voyager and DS9 were punted to the side, and that was just frustrating to me, and it's one of the parts of Star Trek literature that the post-Nemesis series did poorly. However, this was still, in and of itself, take out the extra world building, just focusing on Voyager as a Voyager series, this is absolutely wonderful. Kirsten, and I didn't really talk about this at all in the review, but I need to tell this, Kirsten nails the voices of the characters. Every single character, particularly with Janeway, with Chakotay, and with Seven of Nine. Those are the three that she is strongest with, and she nails them all. She does a great job with all the other Voyager characters, but those three in particular are her strongest points. And so as I said, I highly recommend this series. But if you are a fan of Voyager, let me know what are your favorite Voyager books? What's your favorite Voyager arc? Do you think that Christie Golden was a better author? Do you think that Kirsten's later books are better? Let me know what you think of this series. And also, let me know if there's some Voyager books that I think I should be reading, that you think I should be reading that I'm not currently reading. So, until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.